I have so many thoughts. I also read the initial article. I believe there's a documentary that also made, or like a, I don't know if it's a documentary, like a TV special. I don't know. I didn't watch that, but I've seen a lot for women here. But of course, where there's smoke, there's fire, and it's typically this is a lot of repeat behavior, right? And the first thing I want to say is that I'm not going to tolerate any rape apologia in our chat today. It's going to be an instant ban. I don't want your money or your views, but because I think that the left used to understand, and I know all you dumb used to understand because you used to say it all the time about Joe Biden and about Tara Reid, which is 100% correct, right? If a woman comes out and says they're a survivor of sexual assault, right, then we need to believe them and we need to go ahead and investigate that, right? Then we need to take survivors' word seriously. But I'm seeing a lot of absolute dog shit brain rot, right? These embarrassing takes that somehow Russell Brand is like being brought down by the establishment. You have to be the biggest mark on planet Earth to believe that, because why the fuck do you think he's been spending the last years destroying his credibility in Hollywood, where he was an actual superstar, right? Like, guys, this guy isn't a Jimmy Dore. Jimmy Dore was washed up before he got to TYT, right? He was a never was. He couldn't cut it. He was never going to make it to the level that Russell Brand was at, right? Russell Brand was flying around on private jets, hosting the VMAs, starring in blockbuster cinema. I mean, he was world famous. He was selling out huge theaters with his stand-up specials. I mean, this guy had lucrative deals. He was married to a pop star. Okay, this guy, he's not living the kind of media career arc that Jimmy Dore was, right? I mean, and to be fair, it's because Russell Brand is actually funny. We're gonna get to the criticism of Russell Brand, but he was actually capable, right? And that's where this comes in, right? So he goes on and he decides that actually, potentially, and this is speculative, right? These are all allegations, but let me just paint a picture for you guys, right? Why would somebody who has all of this, who has so much, go on and completely abandon it all? Probably because of his racketeering when it comes to like how to recover, right? Like this is like, because that was his first big thing that he moved away from. And at first I was like, oh, this is kind of interesting, right? Like he wants to talk about like a recovery, and he wants to talk about like how he's made it through the 12 step program, and that he's does abstinence based recovery, and he doesn't smoke pot, and he doesn't like eat mushrooms, and it was an interesting perspective, right? But then he started to slowly veer more into the just like more deranged info wars, kind of like it's the it's the Jew. It basically just like almost like basically anti-Semitism. Like, oh, it's the George Soros's, or it's the what's the family from England that everybody fucking goes after, the Rothschilds. Like, oh, they're the ones that are in charge of fucking global warming and climate change and all that kind of stuff. And he starts to basically just shred every last bit of credibility that he could have possibly had. He really does seem like an insane narcissist, and I think that's part of what always made him a good comedian. But what I liked about him when he was talking about recovery all the time is that he was so open about that. He was so open about how easy it would be for him to just like get swept up in the praise and the adulation and all that comes with stardom, and how he was not only addicted to drugs, alcohol, sex, and pornography, but also to fame, right? He was addicted. He's completely transparent about it, and I actually thought it was admirable at the time, right, to be so transparent about how you struggle so much with a narcissistic personality disorder, right? Most people are not willing to be that blatant about it. Most people are not willing to confront that, and I think that did to me at the time. I thought that showed some level of like personal accountability, but I reflect on it now differently, given what the horrible things that we've seen here, and I think it's all a ruse. I think it was just this idea to cover his own ass, right? It's, where he was like trying to paint himself as somebody who had this like moral arc, right, where he'd become enlightened because and over time he realized that it wasn't going to be enough. It wasn't going to be enough. It wasn't going to be enough. So what did he have to do? He had to cultivate an audience of people who would never care what the accusation was. I think I saw a tweet from Vosh that was like, if Jeffrey Epstein had become a right-wing culture warrior 8 months before the bombshells came out about him, then there would still be massive numbers of people on the internet claiming that he was taken out because he got too close to the truth, right? Like, if only he'd spent a couple of minutes talking about QAnon, Jeffrey Epstein would have been able to fucking, receive an unending, support and uncritical analysis from all right-wing commentators. And anyway, this is a long preamble, but I followed Russell Brand's career for a long fucking time. I remember when he put out the first season of Under the Skin, and I was sitting in my car as a pizza delivery driver. Okay. For Sarpino's Pizzeria, I was going to school at UMKC in the block school, and I would listen to him talk about how capitalism was bullshit. And then I would try and square that circle with how I was going to business school all the time. Right. Like this dude was like a big part of my media diet for the longest time. And so it really took me, like, I really did some deep thinking about this. I was like, holy shit, like, what's going on with this guy? And of course, he's, been obviously moving in a direction that I wasn't going to continue to consume his content for a long time now. But given the allegations, given the way that he's behaved over the past couple of years, I mean, I don't know. It's all very, very fishy. And yeah, shout out to Sarpino's Pizza for being my high school job.
Yeah, dude, it's pretty crazy stuff. And don't get me wrong, like I also at one point was a big fan of Russell Brand. I've never been like a hardcore listener of his. It's not like I was the kind of guy who listened to him every single day or anything like that. But I generally, throughout my adult life have thought that Russell Brand has some good stuff to say up until the last like 2 or 3 years. And then it's, started to go downhill and just get really embarrassing, in my opinion, pandering to the far right with just kind of stupid conspiracy theory stuff over and over again. And then it got really bad because I can tolerate some conspiracy stuff. I kind of like conspiracy theory culture. But then he just started having on like Ron DeSantis for a softball interview. And it's like
Candace Owen.
Right. Candace Owen. Let's talk to Ben Shapiro. It's like, all right, well, I can, like I said, I can tolerate some conspiracy stuff, even if I think it's kind of cringy, or even if I think you're kind of pandering, like, talking about the vaccine, like all that stuff, whatever. But then you're just talking to Ron DeSantis and doing softball interviews with like establishment Republicans. It's like, all right, well, now this isn't even really an anti-establishment show. This isn't even really an anti-capitalist show anymore. You are just doing Republican propaganda, right-wing propaganda. And that doesn't mean that he didn't do some base stuff back in the day. He certainly did. And he has stuck up for people like Julian Assange. And, he's made some brave stances over the year for sure. And we have given him credit. Even a couple of years ago, Zach and I were still defending Russell Brand from accusations that he was like a far right grifter, just because we were kind of in denial, being fans ourselves of Russell. So we're not coming to this from like the place of haters. But that being said, even though I think that Russell Brand has done some good work and that he's made some important points, like you said, Zach, even challenging your own kind of ideas about capitalism at a crucial stage in your life, I still think it's absolutely ridiculous that some people are out here acting like Russell Brand is some sort of anti-establishment, martyr like Julian Assange. Here's a tweet. I saw a lot of these from just brain dead Russell Brand stands. The rape accusations against Russell Brand seemed awfully similar to the rape accusations used against Julian Assange, as the establishment dismisses allegations against Biden and their ilk, yet routinely use sex smears to attack truth tellers. Remain skeptical. Which of course is stupid because, yeah, does Russell Brand talk about politics? For sure. But he's also, at the end of the day, just kind of a washed up actor and a YouTuber. And guess what? Actors, YouTubers, content creators, celebrities in general, they get accused of being, sexual criminals all the time. They get exposed as creeps all the time. To me, this stuff with Russell Brand is way more in common with the recent accusations against Danny Masterson than they are, reminiscent of the accusations against Julian Assange. And no one would argue that Danny was taken down because he was, speaking too much truth or rattling the cage of the establishment. No, he was a creep who was, running amok in Hollywood with a bunch of power, and he wasn't held accountable until very recently because of the fact that he was a rich, privileged, and popular celebrity. Same with Russell
and
Brand.
A Scientologist, bro. The Scientologists will fucking, oh my god, that's a huge part of it. I was a big That 70s Show fan, but a while ago I realized how bad this shit was, and it made it hard to enjoy the TV show as much as I did, man. And I swear to God, Gavin knows me. I grew up on sitcoms. I was a big sitcom watcher. That 70s Show was like my favorite of all of the fucking sitcoms, right? But you can't laugh the same because Hyde got all the best jokes, and now you just feel fucking wrong. But anyway, yeah, the allegations were serious that like Scientology had actually been like kind of helping him procure potential victims, and then certainly like trying to pay them off and like get them wrapped up in NDAs and like settling out of court and just covering up and smearing them and ruining their fucking lives if they had to. Just like a bunch of disgusting Hollywood shit.
I guess the Danny. Oh, what was that?
Oh, go ahead, Nose.
I was gonna say, I guess the Danny one is a little bit different because the Scientology angle. My point was just that actors get exposed as creeps all the time. I mean, we lived through the Me Too movement. It wasn't that long ago. We saw James Franco go down. We saw tons of actors from brands, same generation, go down for very similar accusations. And again, no one would say that they took James Franco down because he was rattling the cage of the establishment. No, no, of course not. But now all of a sudden, because Russell Brand has been talking about the vaccine, for the last couple of years on Rumble, all of a sudden that's why he's being exposed. It's just ridiculous, in my opinion, given the fact that this has apparently kind of been an open secret for a while now. It was only a matter of time before this stuff came out, which is why I think Russell Brand has intentionally cultivated a right-wing audience over the last 2 or 3 years. He's known that this shit was going to drop eventually. He knew it was only a matter of time before he was exposed as the creep and, alleged sexual predator that he's now been exposed as potentially or allegedly being, which is why he's, able to do this and why he's able to do it successfully. Let's watch this video and then just kind of reflect on the fact that, to be honest, it's worked. It is working. Russell Brand's career is going to be fine within the audience of people that he's cultivated. He's going to be fine. And they're all, doing exactly what he wanted them to.
And it's funny because he's going to go out there and send them a pile of bullshit, eh? Lovey-dovey.
Type of video we make on this channel where we critique, attack, and undermine the news in all its corruption, because in this story, I am the news. I've received 2 extremely disturbing letters, or a letter and an email, one from a mainstream media TV company, one from a newspaper, listing a litany of extremely egregious and aggressive attacks, as well as some pretty stupid stuff, like my community festival should be stopped, that I shouldn't be able to attack mainstream media narratives on this channel. But amidst this litany of astonishing, rather baroque attacks are some very serious allegations I absolutely refute. These allegations pertain to the time when I was working in the mainstream, when I was in the newspapers all the time, when I was in the movies, and as I've written about extensively in my books, I was very, very promiscuous. Now, during that time of promiscuity, the relationships I had were absolutely always consensual. I was always transparent about that then, almost too transparent. And I'm being transparent about it now as well. And to see that transparency metastasized into something criminal that I absolutely deny makes me question, is there another agenda at play? Particularly when we've seen coordinated media attacks before, like with Joe Rogan, when he dared to take a medicine that the mainstream media didn't approve of. And we saw a spate of headlines from media outlets across the world using the same language. I'm aware that you guys have been saying in the comments for a while, watch out, Russell, they're coming for you, you're getting too close.
Bro, he tries to compare himself to Joe Rogan. You know what they didn't do to Joe Rogan? Have a bunch of women come out and say that he raped them, because I guarantee you Joe Rogan is not a raper, right? Like, I guess, like, you can't guarantee that nobody, like, anybody, but come on, dude. And also, what the fuck? Gavin, does Baroque have a different meaning than what the fuck I understand it to? Because that made absolutely no sense. He's just so full of shit. He's trying to use big words. His audience is so dumb, guys. This is what's fucked up. His audience is so dumb that, you know how I joke that I don't have a very good grasp of the English language? That's speaking it. Auditorily, pretty good. Baroque is like it's literally, I just Googled it to make sure I'm not a fucking idiot. Relating to or denotating a style of European architecture, music, and the art of the 17th and 18th centuries that followed a mannerism and it's characterized by ornate detail. That has absolutely nothing to do with what the fuck was accused of him. He's just using big words because he knows his audience is so fucking stupid that they just are going to believe whatever he says. They're going to swallow the sewage that's coming out of his mouth right now. And he's being, it's completely outlandish.
He's saying the accusations as are ornately constructed as the Baroque art and architecture of the 1700s, Zach. Of course, come on.
I thought he was referring to the fact that pedophilia was acceptable back then and that it was okay to fuck 16-year-olds and have them delivered to your house. Oh, I thought that's what he was referencing.
Yeah, no, it's embarrassing for sure. And yeah, like a great point, by the way, about Joe Rogan. If I was Joe Rogan and I heard that, I'd be like, hey, don't bring me into this. Like, bro, I have not been accused of sexual assault. Yeah, did they come after me?
All they can call me is a right winger because I keep my penis in my pants, damn it.
Yeah, and an idiot that, promoted ivermectin.
I'll take idiot and grifter right winger before, like, you know what I mean?
But you're right. He brings up, remember what they did to Joe Rogan? Oh, something totally different than what's happening to you. No one accused Joe Rogan of sexual assault. I've never heard that. I've literally never heard that about Joe Rogan, that he has been done anything unconsensual. Now, again, maybe that is the case. I'm not saying it's never happened. Obviously, I don't know. I've never had any fucking personal experiences with him or anyone that's ever known him. But the fact of the matter is that no, to bring up what they did to Joe Rogan is not relevant to what is happening to you. People were criticizing Joe Rogan for irresponsibly wielding his platform, the largest podcast in the country, to spread, medical misinformation and promote ivermectin. They were not accusing him of having raped people.
Yeah, the worst they had on him was something we already knew. We all already knew he said the N-word like 10 million times on air, because Gavin and I would look at each other and be like, do you think the boot's ever going to drop for him on that? Or do people... And we were both like, I don't know. I think he just like says... I think people are just like not going to cancel Joe Rogan because he says all kinds... And then finally he had to put out an apology, and I don't think he says the N-word on air anymore. Like, again, that like I said, that was a really bad look, but I don't think anybody was surprised that Joe Rogan said the fucking N-word. But it's still not the same as having a multitude of women come forward and say,
right,
hey, dude, you fucking sexually assaulted us. And honestly, guys, we can read it. It'll content warning for people. We'll get into some of the specific accusation because I think it's really important for you guys to hear them. It's bad.
Oh, yeah, it is really bad. And I feel like a lot of the people that are defending Russell Brand, they haven't even read the article. They don't even know what he's being accused of. This is not care. Some Aziz Ansari situation where it was like, oh, he made someone uncomfortable and there was maybe some miscommunication. This is not like a Neil deGrasse Tyson situation where it's like, oh, he was like being a little bit inappropriate and like looked at someone's tattoo or something weird like that. Like, no, this is straight up sexual assault. It's pretty unambiguous what happened. Like if you read the article and follow the reporting and actually do your fucking homework, it actually becomes pretty obvious what's going on here.
Yeah, but anyway, we can finish this fucking drivel out and break down more. But it basically, guys, and I know it's obvious to you guys because I like to think that we haven't cultivated an audience full of the actual dumbest people in America. It's obvious that he's full of shit right now, which doesn't help his case. Preemptively getting out with a video that makes you look terrible, not the way to go.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. Yeah. Like, and even if he was falsely accused, like, let's talk about this. Even if Russell Brand was falsely accused and none of this shit, it was all cooked up by the fucking press, right? Which is not true. But let's say it is. This is still a terrible way to respond to these sort of accusations. This is still a terrible way to respond to accusations that are this serious, being like, it's just like what they did to my friend Joe and ivermectin, like trying to act like, reduce the seriousness of sexual assault down to like, it's just a deep state op coming after me because I ran my mouth about vaccines too much. Like it just really minimizes the seriousness of these allegations. And again, plenty of celebrities that have no relationship to the anti-vax community or to whatever, corner of the political, online Russell Brand is in touch with. Plenty of people that have no relation to that have also been exposed as creeps. So it's really, just there's no proof of any correlation there.
Gavin, people think we should start talking like this the entire show. What do you think about doing that, huh? It's Tuesday, isn't it, bruv? Oh boy, howdy, pip pip, cheerio, Captain Crunch. We're cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs.
Close to the truth. Russell Brand did not kill himself. I know that a year ago there was a spate of articles. Russell Brand
did not kill himself.
Right wing. I'm aware of news media making phone calls, sending letters to people I know for ages and ages. It's being clear to me, or at least it feels to me like there's a serious and concerted agenda to control these kind of spaces and these kind of voices. And I mean my voice along with your voice. I don't mind them using my books and my stand-up to talk about my promiscuous consensual conduct in the past. What I seriously refute are these very, very serious criminal allegations. Also, it's worth mentioning that there are witnesses whose evidence directly contradicts the narratives that these two mainstream media outlets are trying to construct, apparently in what seems to me to be...
Dude, there were not like, what are you saying? I had somebody standing there when I was fucking this lady, bro, and he's gonna swear on his life that it was consensual, bro. I promise, bro. I'm a performer, bro. Yeah, no, fucking crazy. That just the downright fucking idiocy to think that anybody who was actually looking at this with like even an objective eye, who says that like your sexual assault, I have witnesses that can directly refute that. What about the witnesses that talk about dropping children off at your fucking place of residence and then pleading with them to say, hey, I actually don't think this is a good idea? What about those witnesses?
A coordinated attack. Now, I don't want to get into this any further because of the serious nature of the allegations, but I feel like I'm being attacked, and plainly they are working very closely together. We are obviously going to look into this matter because it's very, very serious. In the meantime, I want you to stay close, stay awake, but more important than any of that, if you can, please stay free.
Stay woke and
Yes.
keep paying my fucking bills, please. Damn it.
Yep. And again, what I have to say is pretty crazy about all of this is that it's totally working. Exactly what Russell Brand wanted to happen is happening. The reason why he's spent the last couple of years cultivating the audience that he's cultivated, it's now paying off for him because now he has a whole army of online simps that are out here defending him, that are out here saying that these accusations are only now coming to light because of the fact that he's talking about the vaccine too much, because he's, come too close to the truth and he's just, talking a little bit too much. So now the establishment has to take him down a peg. And he wouldn't have had this reaction 3 or 4 years ago. If he was still like a darling of the left, then he wouldn't get that reaction. Then people would be saying what Zach and I are saying. Like the people that were following Russell Brand and fans of him would be having the reaction that Zach and I are having because we're people that are genuinely on the left and we actually care about these issues. And we actually take them seriously. The kind of audience that Russell has cultivated does not take these issues seriously. It just has to be said. They don't take them seriously. And by the way, even some of those people out there that are like, we need to wait till there's a conviction in the court of law. A lot of those same people still happily fraternize with Scott Ritter, a convicted child sex criminal, a pedophile. They still happily have him on their show, and they happily, whitewash his crimes and minimize the reality of what that guy is. Scott Ritter, again, a literal pedophile, and he's a convicted pedophile. There's evidence. And some of the same people that will happily trot that fucking guy out now claim to care about evidence. And they say, well, we need to wait till there's a conviction. We need to wait till Russell Brand has been convicted and is behind bars before we take this seriously. But they won't apply that standard to Scott Ritter, which is crazy. Now, I'm not saying that's the case with everyone. I'm sure lots of the people defending Russell Brand don't even know who Scott Ritter is. But I'm just saying, I've been noticing a lot of hypocrisy in that respect. And also, Zach, as you brought up, when it came to Tara Reid, lots of people, ourselves included, by the way, of course we believed Tara Reid. We were like, we believe this woman. She's clearly stepping out on a limb here to make this accusation against a powerful person. It needs to be investigated, yada, yada, yada. We did not come out here and immediately say like, oh, Tara Reid is just trying to take down Joe Biden, blah, blah, blah. No, because we actually take this crime very seriously. And in this case, by the way, Russell Brand, incredibly serious series of crimes being alleged here. Do you want to start just taking a look at this article itself, Zach?
Yeah, guys, this is like, and again, like, guys, it's devastating. Okay, but we have to get into this because there are people who are going to try and make light of this, who are going to misrepresent it. And Russell Brand has a huge army of fucking sycophantic, deranged worshippers on the internet, and that's how powerful men get away from these things. They insulate themselves to no end. Yeah, exactly. This is why Russell Brand is being persecuted by the left. It's absolutely fucking crazy. It's crazy. When you're persecuted by the left, like, sure, yeah, I persecuted him for that picture. I was like, yeah, you're a fucking idiot, Russell Brand, and you have no serious politics, and you're class loyal, and your audience is stupid for believing that you would ever fucking, you know what he would always say? He was like, when the revolution comes, I'll give up all my wealth. I'm like, you fucking idiot. If you think that this guy is fucking giving up all of his wealth when the fucking revolution, he knows the revolution's never fucking coming. That's why he wants you to subscribe to him on the Odyssey or the Luminary podcast, whatever the fuck he was on for a while. Now it's Rumble. It's all stupid as shit. And you're stupid as shit if you believe this guy. I mean, I don't have anything nice to say to you because you are functionally like retarded. I'm sorry. I know you're not supposed to say that. I'm functionally retarded, but you're functionally worse. I can't believe it. So let's get into this because it's really it's gross, and people who know better should fucking be saying things about this.
Yeah. So I guess we can just go through part of this article. Might not read the whole thing. It is really long, but I definitely encourage you guys to read it in its entirety, especially if, like I said, you're just kind of vaguely aware of the allegations, but haven't actually done a deep dive. I find that even I'm guilty of that sometimes. You hear about an allegation, oh, I hear this guy's a creep. But then you you don't actually look into the details. And then eventually when you do, you're like, oh my God, this is really bad. That happened to me with Roman Polanski. Like, I always knew Roman Polanski was a bad guy and a creep. But I kind of went my whole adult life just thinking it was like, oh yeah, he like, he did statutory rape. He had a girlfriend that was like 17 and, he didn't, it was bad, but it wasn't that bad. Right.
Way worse than that.
Then I looked into it one time and watched like a full video about the whole case. And I was like, oh my God, like this is insane. And it's kind of like that with Russell Brand too. Like, it's easy to just be like, oh, he was promiscuous back in the day. He got into a lot of sexual hijinks. I'm sure some crazy stuff happened. He was a wacky guy. I see a lot of people saying stuff like that, right? Just kind of minimizing with this broad brush, being like, oh, well, he's already admitted to his promiscuous past. Guess what, guys? You can have a promiscuous past. You can be a total fucking, slut and still never make anyone uncomfortable, still completely respect everyone's boundaries. You can literally have a new sexual partner every single night and never be accused of rape because you're a good person who values people's comfort, who knows how to ask for consent, and who, wants to be in relationships and encounters that make people comfortable and don't make people like, this is basic stuff, guys. And I just hate seeing people say that, well, Russell Brand, he was really promiscuous back in the day. There's lots of people that are very active sex lives that never rape anyone, that never make anyone uncomfortable. Or if they do make someone uncomfortable, when they understand that they've made someone uncomfortable, they immediately say, oh, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to make you uncomfortable. And they stop.
And also there's a line between that, right? Like, it's like, oh, I'm sorry I made you uncomfortable when I pinned you down and forced my penis inside you. Well, like you said, please don't do this. Right. Like, oh, sorry, I didn't know I couldn't do that. Like, you know what I mean? But right. I also get what you're saying. And
yeah,
I also, man, I guess do you want to just plow into, Gavin? Do you want to just take the lead?
Sure. So let's get through this. The comedian and actor Russell Brand has been accused of rape, sexual assaults, and emotional abuse during a 7-year period. At the height of his fame, 4 women have alleged sexual assaults between 2006 and 2013, while he was a presenter for BBC Radio 2 and Channel 4, and then an actor in Hollywood films. Others have made a range of accusations about Brand's controlling, abusive, and predatory behavior. Brand has denied the allegations and said his relationships have all been consensual. The findings come from a joint investigation by the Sunday Times, the Times, and Channel 4 dispatches. One woman alleges Brand raped her against a wall in his Los Angeles home. She was treated at a rape crisis center on the same day, according to medical records. Texts show that in the hours after leaving his house, she told Brand that she had been scared by him and felt taken advantage of, saying, when a girl says no, it means no. Brand replied saying he was very sorry.
That's
so right
basically
there,
a tacit confession right there. You know what I mean?
100%.
He didn't say, what are you talking about? This is insane. She went to a rape crisis center, guys, right here. This is the man that people are defending. Okay, one, everything checks out. You know why people don't fucking come forward in this country? Do you know why? Why didn't she go to the police? That's exactly what she did. She was raped at his home. She goes to a crisis center looking for help, and nothing ever fucking happens to this man. Nothing ever fucking happens to this man for what, a decade and a half now, finally here. And everybody's like, oh, it happened so long ago. Like, what are you talking about? Why is this just coming up now? This is what they fucking do. This is what rich people do. This is what powerful men do. And if you're a fucking class reductionist proletariat over everything, guys, this is what happens to working class women. This is what happens to, and this is what the concentration of wealth allows people to do. It allows them to dehumanize you and exploit you and engage in whatever kind of fucked up depravity they want. Do you guys want to have kings on earth again? That's what kings used to do. They used to be able to take, anytime a woman was married, right? They would be able to come and force her to have fucking sex with them, right? And then get away with it in impunity, right? That's essentially the way that, rich and powerful men in Hollywood were able to behave for fucking forever. And I guarantee you why it goes from 2006 to 2013. When the fuck did men start having consequences in Hollywood for doing this crazy shit? Okay, so he's like, fuck, I gotta lay low. He's like, I can't behave like this anymore. I can't just be fucking forcing women to have sex with me left and right, because one of these days I might get the Harvey Weinstein, I might get the Bill Cosby, I might get the fucking boot to drop, I might get, finally be held accountable for the disgusting crimes that I perpetrated. But right here, fucking, you don't even have to read far, guys. Just skim the fucking article. You get right here and you're like, oh, yeah, I'm leaning towards guilty.
Yeah. And I mean, already basically case closed. Like, I'm sorry, but basically case closed. She went to a crisis center the same day, according to medical records. So right there, they verified this according to medical records. That's evidence. 2, they have texts of him saying very sorry after she says, when I say no, it means no. Why would you say I'm sorry if that's not what happened, right? Like if you didn't understand what she was referencing, unless it was like no means no, as in like I was asking for a glass of milk and I said no. Like I'm pretty sure that's not what she was talking about. Pretty sure she was talking about consent. So right off the bat, we're like one paragraph in. Seems pretty fucking obvious. A second woman alleges that Brand assaulted her when he was 31 and she was 16 and still at school. She said he referred to her as the child during an emotionally abusive and controlling relationship that lasted for about 3 months, and that Brands once forced his penis down her throat, making her choke. She says she tried to push him off and she had to punch him in the stomach to make him stop. A third woman claims that he sexually assaulted her while she worked in Los Angeles and that he threatened to take legal action if she told anyone else about her allegation. The fourth described being sexually assaulted by Brand and him being physically and emotionally abusive towards her. All said they felt ready to speak only after being approached by reporters. Several said they felt compelled to do so given Brand's newfound prominence as an online wellness influencer with millions of followers on YouTube and other sites. The others have accused him of physical and emotional abuse, sexual harassment, and bullying. Most of the women who do not know each other have chosen to remain anonymous. Over the past few... Oh, you want to butt in?
I just was going to say, a lot of people are going to fucking... I've seen like disgusting pricks like George Galloway and like all these other fuckers that are like, oh, he's gotten too close to the proof of being like, BBC would never run a story like this if I brought it to him about Joe Biden or whatever the fuck kind of a framework. Do you guys realize why these women want to remain anonymous? One, this isn't a court of law. This isn't, Russell Brand going up and fucking... I don't know how the fuck crime works in Britain, but you say that he's tried in America for his Los Angeles crimes, go in front of a jury of his peers, right? This isn't what's going to happen, right? And also, I imagine they're terrified of legal retaliation from Russell Brand, who is incredibly wealthy, but they're also probably scared to death of his 7 million fucking followers, his deranged sycophants that treat him like a deity, like an infallible god. Okay, because what does he do? He feeds them the drivel and swill and mind. He's basically a Pied Piper, basically, is what he is. He's like a Pied Piper of the internet. He knows exactly what people want to hear because, like, if you're a master manipulator, all you need to know how to do is just fucking say exactly what people want to know. It's like, that's what salesmen do, right? Like they just tell you exactly what the fuck you want to hear, right? And that's what he's doing on his media show in order to build the widest audience of the most devoted followers so that he can weather this storm right here. I think it's all calculated. I think it's all fucking calculated. And the fact that these women don't want to come forward should really make these individuals do some self-assessment, right? Why do these women not feel comfortable in today's society naming themselves when there is no guarantee? There's not even a likelihood of consequences for this guy, but enough for them to relive this trauma and say, hey guys, like, yes, I was a part of this. Like, this is my experience. And also, like, there's a weird number of people on the internet that I've seen saying things like, oh, I've known Russell, and like doing the whole like Ashton Kutcher like fucking letter of character merit for Danny Masterson, basically doing the same thing for Russell Brand, being like, oh, this guy, I had sex with him and he didn't rape me. He couldn't have possibly raped anyone else. Like, are you it? Like, none of that is a defense. None of that discredits what is being said by these other women victims. But anyway, that's just a little context, because that's a lot of what I'm seeing. It's like, why would these women not come forward if they're so sure of their story? Because they don't want to be ripped to shreds by assholes like you when they stand to gain nothing and they've already lost so much. So much has been taken from them by this man, the trauma that he imposed on them, the number of thoughts that they've probably had about this guy that they don't fucking want to, the fact that they can never fucking think about, like, they can never not think about that being a potential. He's scorned them forever. Their relationships and intimacy and romance is going to be forever fucking tainted because of this guy's not, like, people don't understand, right? Like, when you are this is like violent trauma. Okay, so sexual violent trauma is unique, but in your brain, if you can't fathom that, think about how you would feel if, like, you went outside and you got jumped and you got beat beat within the fucking like inch of your life. And then you get to go see the guy that just beat the fuck out of you and terrorized you making millions of dollars on YouTube and being praised as a truth teller and a freedom fighter and like a great man and a hero and all of these kinds of things. Obviously, that would fuck with you while you were just trying to live your life, right? Even if it was like a one-off kind of a deal. Anyway, that just the excuses that people make for this guy and the lack of empathy that they have. It's been truly shocking from the left. I thought this was one of the things that honestly, there is no left. There is no left. You know, the entire left indie YouTube really fucking bifurcated, and half of it went to the most fucking just sycophantic, deranged, unhappy people on the internet, and now they've fallen to such a low that they're willing to do rape apologia for a millionaire celebrity they've never fucking met before, that's never lifted a finger to do fuck all for them with the millions of dollars that he has. What kind of charity events is Russell Brand doing over there? What kind of mutual aid is Russell Brand doing over there? Nothing. He's building an empire for himself, and he's doing it because you guys are so fucking stupid that you can't see what he's doing. It's embarrassing.